Hello and welcome to Eureka, coming to you from Science Brainwaves and PH7. In the studio today we have me, Chris.
Me, Charlie.
And me, Emma.
This week's episode is all about Movemeber. We're going to be talking about some fascinating topics: the evolution of hair, the attractiveness of facial hair, and the Movemeber charity itself. And of course we have a fantastic quiz. But coming up first, we have the news.
Okay, so the news this week, our first story is about concentrations of CO2. In the Earth's atmosphere, they have surged to a record high in 2016, according to the World Meteorological Organization, which is just fab. Last year's increase was 50% higher than the average of the past 10 years.
Yeah, it's not looking great, is it?
Well done, us.
No. Did anyone watch Blue Planet 2?
Yes,
Of course.
I did, yeah.
What did we think?
Loved it.
Yeah, I'm just...
You really got off topic
Sorry,
there.
I mean, it reminded me of the walruses at the
Yeah,
end.
it's so sad.
And the melting ice and the troubles that caused them.
Yeah, it's all
Very
because of
sad.
climate change.
Anyway, carry on.
Yes. Researchers say that combination of human activities and the El Nino weather phenomenon, which is to do with like currents and
Yeah.
wind along the coast of South America and Australia.
Yeah, and it pivots between, you have periods of...
Hot years and cold years.
Yeah.
Yes, but between those two, the CO2 has been driven up to a level not seen in 800,000 years.
Long time.
A very long time.
Very long time.
Impressed with us. 2016 saw average concentrations of CO2 hit 403.3 parts per million, which is up from 400 parts per million in 2015. So it's more crucial than ever that we stick to the Paris Agreement.
Yeah, I recently read that there's something like, now there's only 3 countries in the world which haven't agreed.
It's 2.
Is it 2?
The US and Syria.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say, isn't one Trump?
Yeah, one's the US, the other is Syria.
One's the most powerful country in the world, and the other is a war-torn one.
Yeah, perhaps it's slightly more inexcusable that America doesn't compared to Syria.
Yeah, I feel like it's really going to set things back.
Yeah, Syria has bigger problems to worry about right now.
Yeah.
You can forgive them.
But yeah, especially with the whole like Environmental Protection Agency. And
Yeah, I saw the newly elected head of the Environmental Protection Agency in America recently said that it was okay to use coal because it was
it's like a
God-given.
God-given right to use it.
Yeah.
It's quite worrying, really, isn't it? That?
It is. There's lots of worrying things going on in America, but let's carry on
Let's
because we don't want to. Because we
don't
have
make
many
people too
American
sad.
listeners, and we don't want to.
Yes, that could be true. So in 2014, a team of scientists took a look at the economic growth of countries hit by every tropical storm since 1950, and they found that economic growth rates were lower for an average of 15 years.
That's a long time, isn't it? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's basically a generation after a tropical storm hits, and the effects are still known. And I think because I did the research for this bit, I think the point of that study is that really the long-term economic impacts of tropical storms caused by climate change haven't really been looked at before, and scientists were really surprised to see just how long GDP drops for after these natural events.
15 years.
15 years,
Yeah,
and
that's a lot.
of course, lower GDP. This affects everyone. This affects wages.
And I feel like it's only in the news like immediately after
Exactly,
it happens,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it can have an effect for so long after.
Yeah, especially as this year there's been so many tropical storms in
Of course, particularly in America, but also here. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we had the red sun caused by the tropical storm hitting the coast of Ireland.
Storm Ophelia?
Yeah.
That one as well. Yeah. Apparently, another study found that people can't work as hard when it's hot as well. And crop yield starts to fall, which could lead to a 23% drop in incomes by 2100.
Okay. I mean, it's a long way off, but it seems pretty serious.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's just mad, really. So rising heat alone could hit the economy far harder than any natural disasters. I just think you just don't think about this kind of thing. You think about species loss and biodiversity and things like that, but not necessarily like...
But I understand
how people can't work as hard when it's hot.
I mean, when I go to a hot country, I feel like...
You don't do anything.
Yeah, like the thought of doing sort of manual labour in 40 degrees heat is it's just awful.
But when the robots come along, we don't need to do
we'll
that.
get, as long as they don't overheat to their circuits. Moving on to perhaps happier news, maybe. The wheat genome has been sequenced, which is 17 billion DNA bases / letters, which are the little codes that make up DNA, which is 5 times the size of the human genome.
Wow. Yeah. So this was maybe a slightly side point, but it's interesting, isn't it, that the wheat genome is so much bigger than the human one. And I think if you asked the sort of average person who doesn't know a huge amount
you would
genetics...
think more intelligent, bigger genome.
Yeah, but the opposite's been true, and the highly evolved species on Earth, including us, have fewer genes than the most simple.
Well, this could be because apparently 80% of its genome is repetitive sequences.
Yeah, cool.
Which is, I feel like it's usually used in like regulation and things like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the sequencing of this genome will aid efforts to study the crucial crop, wheat, in which 2 billion people rely on it a year. So could we create disease-resistant, climate change-tolerant plants?
Ideally.
Hope so.
But people get so, at the moment...
We'll have the energy to collect them.
Well, yeah, and also there's got to be a movement towards GM, genetically modified crops, which is actually, let's praise our American friends now, because America's far better on their acceptance towards GM than us.
Yeah.
And actually, if you go to America, a lot of their supermarket food is genetically modified, and people are fine with that.
Yeah, it's crazy actually how the culture differs so much with things like that between. Yeah. But I think it's because people worry that we don't know enough about GM crops, isn't it? Yeah. Why people are put off by them.
And of course, people sort of think that natural, whatever natural means, is better. Forgetting the fact that with artificially, I mean, a natural sweet corn doesn't look anything like what we've ended up with through years of artificial breeding. Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting. Those two are quite well linked, I think, those two news stories. Something completely different, uncovering the causes of psychiatric disorders. So they're obviously debilitating disorders and often involve a genetic component, yet evolution hasn't weeded them out, which you would think of. So you would think that something that's debilitating would be less common in a species. Very puzzling question. But yeah, many psychiatric disorders are polygenic, which means they have hundreds or thousands of genes and DNA mutations responsible for them. And a team at Yale University think that they have come up with the answer. People who live in European regions with relatively lower winter temperatures, so colder, were slightly more genetically prone to schizophrenia.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. Bit freaky. Apparently the head of the team, Pallen, suggests that if genes that helped people tolerate the cold were located close to genes that promote schizophrenia in the genome, then the schizophrenia gene could have been inadvertently carried along during evolution as a fellow traveller.
A hitchhiking gene,
as they're
sometimes called.
So the gene itself isn't advantageous in any way, but because it's near one that is, the way that DNA is copied and evolution works, then it kind of hitchhikes along, and that's why they could still be here.
Yeah. It's a bit like if you have maybe a group project And I'm thinking maybe on The Apprentice, and you have a team and they're really, really good, and so they win all the time. But there's been a bad egg in there.
A bad egg that doesn't do anything.
And it doesn't matter that the bad egg by themselves would be absolutely useless because they're next to a load of really good people, which masks in a way.
Yeah.
That's
a very good analogy.
Thank you. Full of
inspired by The Apprentice.
Yes, there's many of my life actions.
Apparently there are also some trade-off effects. So an overactive immune system is thought to be involved in many psychiatric disorders such as depression, but a stronger immune system would have made human ancestors more resistant to diseases. So it's a trade-off between being more resistant to other diseases which could kill you and then other diseases which potentially couldn't, like depression. And then we've got one other theory from Simon Fraser University. Many of schizophrenia's symptoms, such as auditory hallucinations, so that's like hearing things, and jumbling sentences, involve brain regions that are tied to speech. And over the course of hominid evolution, so humans and human-like species, the ability to speak could have outweighed the small but unavoidable risk that the genes involved in language could malfunction and result in schizophrenia in a small percentage of the population. So I guess that's also a trade-off.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off that
You can either
chatty is generally seen as
it's a good thing, communicate with other people and things like that, but genes can go wrong and that's why we have diseases, I guess. So that was an interesting little tidbit of news. And now for something slightly more amusing. So research has come out that says cannabis smokers have about 20% more sex than those who abstain from the drug. So Stanford University School of Medicine researchers found that women who were daily marijuana smokers had sex on an average 7.1 times in the previous 4 weeks, compared to only 6.0 times reported by people who did not use marijuana. There you go.
Who said that smoking marijuana is bad for you?
Quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
Obviously, this study is causation versus correlation.
Of course. Yeah.
We saw that on a pumpkin, didn't we? It was like a scientific pumpkin that just said causation is not... correlation is not causation or something like that. Okay. So it could just be, it doesn't mean that one causes the other. It doesn't mean that people who have more sex could just be more likely to smoke cannabis.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the authors were apparently keen to point this out, but still very interesting.
Yeah. It's not just like, have some weed.
Have some weed because you'll have more sex. It's not like smoking weed makes you sexier.
And I do think it is probably more likely that people have more sex or more likely to do drugs. Rather than actually doing drugs increases their
sexiness. But yeah, that is all of the news stories that we've got written down for this week. Our next discussion is going to be talked about by Anna on the evolution of hair.
Brilliant.
Okay, so because it's Movember month and we're talking all about hair, we thought we'd start very general and talk about the evolution of hair. Why do we have it?
Why do men have beards?
Yeah. So do you guys know anything about the evolution of hair?
A reasonable amount.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of my...
master's project.
Yeah, it's quite related to my master's project, which is looking at... So hair is a type of epithelial appendage.
That's the fancy word.
That's the fancy word. So this includes things like mammalian hair, but also reptilian scales, avian feathers. And basically the idea is that all of these epithelial appendages are caused by a similar set of genes.
Yeah. Oh. And you're testing if it exists in fish.
I am. I'm also, so I'm looking, so that's been determined. That was determined last year that both reptiles, birds, mammals, all of those epithelial appendages develop from the same gene set. But how deep does that go, that gene set? So I'm looking at whether the same gene set allows fish scales to develop.
Oh, cool.
Going back even further into the depths of evolutionary time. But what do we have on the evolution of mammals?
Yeah,
we
you
don't care
probably
about fish, we care about
know
mammals.
a bit more about it. So yeah, basically, the evolution of hair is like kind of what you'd think like for like heat, kind of
furry, warm.
So of all the animals, of all the 3,000 living mammals, only a few don't have fur. So things like whales and dolphins, obviously, because they're in the sea, so they don't really need it. And then things that live in like hot places, like elephants, they don't have hair because they don't need it.
Yeah.
And then things like mole rats that live in the ground.
Naked mole rats.
Yeah, they don't need hair.
Beauties.
So it seems like all the other kind of animals, it's very clear why they don't have hair, which is why it's a bit confusing as to why humans don't have hair, because it doesn't really seem to be like a clear...
Yeah, and of course our
Yeah.
closest
Need.
relatives, the
Yeah.
chimpanzees, are covered in hair, so it's not even like...
It's not like we evolved from something. Yeah. So there's not a clear kind of conclusive reason as to why humans don't have hair all over their bodies. But there's three main ones. So there's the aquatic ape hypothesis that says 6 to 8 million years ago, ape-like ancestors had a semi-aquatic lifestyle. So they foraged for food in shallow waters. So maybe it's like because they were in and out of water, maybe we didn't need fur. And
bog us down.
yeah, and it's not a good insulator in water.
Yeah,
So.
I'm just not convinced that much because like polar bears go in the water to hunt. But
That's
saying
it. Chris
that.
says
No, I mean-
not true.
I'm not saying that. I'm just,
But yeah, polar bears do go in the water.
That's actually.
Yeah.
You would think then that their fur would freeze, but it doesn't. When they
Yeah.
get out.
Yeah.
Need to do
Magic.
some research on that one.
But yeah, so the idea, I guess, would be that they say that we've lost our fur and replaced it with body fat, like a lot of aquatic animals.
Lost fur, got fat.
Yeah. But apparently this theory does fall down as there's little paleontological evidence for an aquatic phase of human existence. So maybe Chris is right, maybe not really.
I called it. I
Yeah, called it.
Yeah, rubbish.
Just a big rubber stamp that just says rubbish.
The second theory is body temperature. So I guess similarly, like with elephants, when we were living in the hot savannah, we didn't need to have hair to keep us warm. So, and in comparison to ape ancestors, they spent a lot of their time in the forest. So maybe
Yeah.
that's why they had hair. Whereas us walking upright in the sun, maybe would have overheated.
That's very true.
Yeah.
It's a much more
You don't
convincing
want-
argument, isn't it?
Like a fur coat on in the sub-Saharan desert, do you?
No,
yeah.
particularly now that.
Particularly now. I mean, we're not talking about now.
No,
in any way.
I more mean now we're gathering crops and it's going to be boiling hot by
Yeah.
2,100.
Yeah.
Yes, very true.
So yeah, that seems to have some kind of merit, but
Chris has stamped up possible on that one.
there is the caveat that while it might be good in the day, we would also have lost heat at night when we needed it. So
It's supposed to be really cold at night,
yeah,
aren't they?
so kind of doesn't quite
Maybe
hold
we
up
just
there.
made a little underground nest.
Yeah, went in
there.
a cave. Yeah.
It's a bit like what I do at night.
And then also apparently hair is supposed to be useful to protect against UV radiation. So
Yeah.
maybe, but then I guess if you're living in the desert and you're black, maybe you don't need as much protection from UV radiation because
that's
they're
very
less
true.
susceptible to skin cancer. So.
Yes.
And then the third theory is about lice. Apparently, this theory says that humans lost their hair to reduce their vulnerability to fur-loving parasites. And so maybe we just got too many lice to get rid of the hair.
We still haven't chicken head lice, but
Yeah.
maybe in the future we'll all be bald.
Although apparently hair does protect against a lot of insects like mosquitoes and biting flies.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure I've heard somewhere that like hair and feathers and things like that can have actually antimicrobial. Like
It's true. It's true.
It's true.
I
crisp stamps. Yes, true.
I only know because on the next bit of our show, which is going to look particularly at facial hair, actually, they're hoping that moustaches is a potential source of new antibiotics.
Oh.
God, they're really grasping at straws, aren't they?
Looking at anything now.
Anything that could possibly... These mics, they might have something to do with antibacterial resistance.
Have we tried looking at moustaches, Steve?
Just anything. We just need to make it look like we're doing something. Yeah, that's an interesting one, though.
So it's still kind of not... It doesn't
100%
fill in all the
sure.
gaps. Yeah, so we still don't really know why people became hairless in the first place. But which I guess Chris will probably get onto this in a minute, but there is the idea of that once it became a thing, it was probably subject to sexual selection. So maybe having smooth, hairless skin could be like a good sign of like health or something. Which may be why women are naturally less hairy. I don't know. So that's kind of why the theories as to why we don't have hair, we don't know. We don't know.
I don't know whether I'm maybe going to make up my own theory here.
Yeah, just posit one right now.
But I wonder whether when we became more cooperative, whether having no hair on our face made it easier for us to pick up on other people's emotions.
Yeah.
Ooh,
that's interesting.
That's a good one.
Thanks.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It doesn't really explain how
The rest of the body.
yeah.
Especially as grooming is a big thing in apes.
Yeah. But maybe if you're like maybe related to not having hair on your face could be related to not having hair on your body.
Yes.
Maybe it's just like a byproduct, perhaps.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, there is so that's why we don't have hair in general, but then obviously we do have a few bits of hair.
A few little bits here and
Yeah,
there.
so because eyebrows are apparently related to non-verbal communication. So like
There we go.
displaying emotions. So like, yeah, maybe it's to do with that kind of stuff. And then all the other bits of hair, eyebrows, eyelashes, all to do with just getting rid of germs or like not getting germs in your eyes.
Yeah.
And I think that's all I have to say, really. There's a bit on beards, but I think you might be covering beards.
Oh yeah.
aren't you?
Well, I'll come back to it.
We'll
Yeah.
circle back round to beards.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But I think now it's time for the quiz.
Yes, the quiz.
So this quiz has been lovingly written by me.
By me.
I hope you two enjoy it. I enjoyed writing
I'm
it.
a little bit
Forward to
worried
it.
about this quiz.
I think it starts off quite normal and just gets a bit weird.
It gets weirder and weirder. I
But
just
anyway,
hear
the
Chris
first...
cackling in his room while he was writing this quiz. So it's going to be weird, everyone. Brace yourselves.
It works. The first 10 questions are going to just be a multiple choice, and we're going to have a buzzer, and you're
Okay.
going to buzz in if you think you know.
Okay.
So, without further ado, what will be your buzzer noises?
I don't know, because I usually like to go with the theme.
It's difficult.
And you can't have a hairy buzzer noise. It doesn't work.
My buzzer's just going to be Mo, because it's related to Movemeber.
Oh, mine will be stash.
Okay.
Yeah,
done.
Okay. I like it. Okay. So, question number 1. What protein makes up hair in mammals?
Stash.
Okay. We didn't
Wait,
even
do I not
need
need to... Shall I wait for the answers?
No, you've buzzed in now.
Keratin.
Correct.
Yeah!
Okay.
Next time I'll just hold my horses and be patient.
Question number 2. How do you spell moustache?
Mo. Moustache.
Correct. 1-1. I really struggle with spelling the word moustache, but actually I think that might just be me and was actually quite an easy question. But anyway, question number 3. Hair is a feature unique to mammals. But which of these characteristics is also a defining feature of mammals? Is it A, live birth, B, not able to breathe underwater, or C, the production of milk?
Dash. C.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so lots of people think that live birth
Yeah, I
is
was gonna
also
go for that one.
which I threw that in, but some sharks, for example, give birth to live young.
Sharks, lots of fossil mammals, not mammals, reptiles.
Yeah.
They actually have fossils of some giving birth. This was my dissertation
Oh, wow.
was on viviparity, live birth in reptiles.
That's cool.
So I was perhaps a little bit advantageous on that question.
Or well prepared.
Well
you know.
prepared.
Who knows?
Done my research.
Anyway, question 4. According to the official Andre Walker system, this is a thing, I have
Wow.
no idea, of classifying different types of hair, which of these is not an official hair type? Is it A, straight, B, curly, C, kinky, or D, frizzy?
Mo.
Is it D?
It is D.
I hesitated.
I was very surprised. So kinky is a type of
Kinky
hair.
is a type of hair.
I think it's similar to curly, but not quite as curly.
Yeah. I guess when you say something's got a kink in it, it's like a little wave almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we know what the scores are? You've been keeping
Say
tabs?
it's 2.
I think 2 all. I don't know. I'm not especially.
2 all.
I mean, are we on
Okay,
question
Yeah,
4?
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go with 2 all. Question number 5. On the official Wikipedia page titled Hair, who is photographed to demonstrate an example of someone possessing curly hair? Is it A, Brazilian footballer David Luiz, B, the cartoon character Mona the Vampire, or C, Queen's League guitarist Brian May?
Stash. Ooh. I don't know who that was.
I think that Charlie.
I didn't actually say anything.
Okay. Brian May.
That's incorrect.
Oh, that's what I was going to go for as well. So,
It's either A, the Brazilian footballer David Luiz, or B, the cartoon character Mona the Vampire.
I mean, does Mona have a lot of hair?
She has it in like little bunches.
So I think I'll go for A.
And you're very correct to do so. Yeah.
You threw him in there. I have no idea what he looks like.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like that question was targeted for us to not know the answer.
Perhaps. Question number 6. The average human male has about 5 million hair follicles. But which of these statements is true? A. This is roughly 3 times as many as a gorilla. This is about 10 times less than a gorilla. Or 5 times less than a gorilla.
Dash. 10 times less than a gorilla.
Nope.
Oh, 5 times less than a gorilla?
No.
More?
Yeah.
More?
This blew my mind. We have roughly 3 times as many hair follicles as gorillas, and in fact have more hair follicles per centimetre squared than any of the other great apes.
Wow.
That makes no sense.
They're just blonde and
They did
very
just
fine.
Oh, okay.
So we do actually have more hair. It's just very fine and
I was
very
thinking, do
small.
we just have like loads of hair on our heads?
Yeah.
Well, I guess when children are in the womb, they like have hair on their faces and stuff, and if the babies are born premature, it falls off.
Yeah.
Apparently, the babies eat it, but yeah, I know, gross. But if a baby's born premature, then they still have that hair, so they must have follicles there.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Okay, so I believe the score is now 4-2 to you, Emma.
Oh God, I need to step it up.
Yeah, no better time than the present. Question 7. What is the estimated date of the oldest portrait showing a shaved man but retaining a moustache? And just in case this information helps you, it was an ancient Iranian horseman. Was it A, 500 BC, B, 300 BC, or C, 50 BC?
Stash. B.
Yeah.
Yay! Oh my God, I nearly knocked
So
my mic.
300 BC. So not actually that long ago was the first official portrait of a man with a moustache.
How do they know that's the first official portrait?
Well, as in we haven't found any which
Are
can
older
date.
than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Question 8. The first equation, mathematical equation, of the state of hair was developed by C.F. van Wyck in 1946. However, what was the equation's name? Was it A, the alpha-beta keratin ratio test? B, the L'Oreal test? Are you actually worth it? Or C, the ponytail shape equation?
Dash.
Yes.
A.
Wrong.
C?
Yes. So
The ponytail shape equation.
yeah. So this was done in 1949 by a Dutch scientist, mathematician, and he predicted the shape of a ponytail given the length and random curvature or curliness of a sample of individual hairs. And this actually went on to win this equation the IG Nobel Prize in 2012. So the IG Nobel Prize is the joke ones.
Yeah,
the joke.
like, like the ones that there was like a man that gave himself ear mites or something to find out what they sound like.
Yeah. So there you go.
There you go.
So there are equations for all sorts of things. If you want to know how long your ponytail could become based on your individual hairs, you know how to do it now.
Now where to find
Maths
that
has proved
equation.
it.
Question 9. In 2015, my favourite band, Little Mix, released
They truly are.
released a single called Hair, and it featured Sean Paul.
Found a path.
Not such a fan of him, but whatever. Which of these lyrics does not actually feature on the song? Is it A, okay, gonna bleach him out, peroxide on him? Is it B, don't call him back because he doesn't deserve it, and when you see him in the club, just flip your hair? Or is it C, why doesn't my man care? Why is he so unfair? Can't he see my supreme hair?
Stash.
Charlie?
See?
It is!
Yeah, I feel like that's something you would have written.
So that's a alternative lyric to the song, which I made up last night.
Let Little Mix know. Chris is here if you need him.
They actually played in Sheffield last week.
That was your chance.
I didn't manage to get tickets. Turns out they're a very popular band.
Who knew?
Okay, this is our last of our multiple choice questions. Number 10. Hair, spelt H-A-I-R, versus hair, spelt H-A-R-E, as in the slightly bigger rabbit, have different meanings and different spellings. This is an example of an A, homonym, B,
Is it A, homonym?
no,
Oh, damn it.
free
bit
hand over
eager.
to Charlie. I'll finish reading the question. A, homonym, B, heteronym, or C, homophone?
Homophone.
Yeah,
They
there
sound
we
the
go.
same.
I thought it was a homonym.
Just for your interest, I have actually put what each one means. So homonym is same spelling, same pronunciation, but different meanings.
Okay.
So this is things like bark, maybe, as in bark of a tree, and bark of a dog. Same spelling, same pronunciation, but different
So
meanings.
homonyms are also homophones.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
in
homophones
my
aren't
mind.
homonyms.
A heteronym is the same spelling but different pronunciations for different meanings. So that's things like tear, as in
Oh, yeah. Tear and tear.
tear and tear.
Okay.
And a homophone is the example which I gave, the hair versus hair. Different spellings, different meanings, but the same pronunciation.
God, that's confusing.
It is, isn't it? It's really confusing. So that's the first 10 questions. Do you know what the scores are?
Literally
Oh,
have no clue.
yeah.
Okay.
Forgot about that.
I think it's
We're
quite
just
even.
not in it for
Yeah,
we're not in it for the
even.
glory. We're just
Okay.
having fun.
But we now have short answer, so both of you will give an answer, and whoever's closer to the real answer will win.
God, this is like an exam.
So, question 1. On the Wikipedia page titled Moustaches, how many times is Adolf Hitler mentioned?
Oh God. 10 times.
So I guess just whether it's more or less than 10. I'll just go with 9.
You're correct. It's actually only 3 times.
Oh. Well, yeah, I think 10 was probably a bit.
Yeah. Well, it was a strange question because you you would expect it to be a lot.
Yes.
Because otherwise, why would you have picked up on it?
It was just random. How much is the razor blade industry worth annually in US dollars?
Oh, God. How much is it worth annually? I don't know. I don't know how much
I
any
don't know
industry
anything
is.
about like economics.
I would say it's probably in the billions.
I'll just go with like
yeah,
2 billion.
20 billion.
2 billion wins it. It's 1.1 billion. But it's not
it's
as
been
much
bad at
as you
this.
might think. Mainly because razors aren't used that much really around the world.
What is used?
I don't know. But I think like I don't think the selling of razors is used.
But also, I suppose that, like sometimes if you buy like an electric razor, you just buy it once.
Yeah.
And just keep using it.
I need to lowball. Need to start lowballing.
Yeah. Maybe here's your chance. If a man started shaving at age 14, how much time would the average person spend shaving in his lifetime?
God. I have no idea how long it takes a man to shave.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Say like 10 minutes?
Depends what he's shaving with.
So this is in a lifetime. So this is like cumulative.
And also, I guess it depends how much his hair grows.
Yeah. I'm going to say...
I mean, something like we spend an average of 3 years of our life on the toilet.
Yeah.
To put it into like some
So
sort of
less than
perspective.
that. So I would go with a year.
A year and a half.
Thought you were going to start low balling. Should have done. It's only 5 months.
Oh, okay.
Well, to be fair, at first I was like 15 hours. I was like, no, that doesn't seem right.
Presuming he shaves every day.
It's just the average, average person...
So because not everyone shaves every day, do they? Yeah.
Yeah, so this, most of these facts actually came from a web page on Reader's Digest. Very interesting facts.
I give them the credit.
Yep. Question number 4, or 14. How many times does the average moustache man touch his moustache every day?
Ooh, that's a man. Moustache man, like a cloaked man. I think it's going to be quite high, but I did say we'll start low balling. Emma, you go first.
So how many times is it? Okay, I'll go with 10.
So I think it's more than that. But I said, no, I'm going to stick to my guns and just highball everything. 20.
It's much, much more. It's 760.
But that does mean I win because I'm the
Yes. But
I was going to say people touch their face a lot.
Yeah, I have a very poor moustache going on at the moment, and I touch it an awful lot. It's quite fun.
Yeah.
You touch it more when you have a moustache.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's kind of like hair, just like fiddling
just like
with
play with it. Yeah. Okay.
The last question on the quiz.
The last question. It's not been that weird.
Do you not think?
No, I was expecting much stranger than this.
Okay.
I've enjoyed it.
I've not been freaked out at any point.
Okay, that's good. I mean, this is my first time writing the quiz, and I'm doing the quiz next week too, so
Excellent.
people better get used to it.
Tweet in, did you like this quiz?
Do you miss Peter Andre?
Question number 15. In doing my research for this quiz, I stumbled across a random Facebook page called Bert's Reynolds Moustache. How many follows do you think this random page has?
Yeah, I'm assuming Burt Reynolds is...
I didn't know he's an actor maybe a bit before
I think he's relatively famous.
Yeah, it's
Not like
I recognise his
top
name.
tier, but like pretty...
How many likes?
Like how many follows? I don't know, Facebook
Basically
kind
the
of.
same thing as
Yeah,
likes.
well, it's not quite because without trying to give away too much of my political feelings, I follow the Conservative Party on Facebook, but I don't like them. It's good for things like that.
So you can see what they're up to.
Yes.
Well, still, it's people that like him and also...
know him, and like his moustache.
Yeah. It's just quite a niche group, I would suggest.
I feel like it's one of those ones, it depends how well known it is. Because I feel like a lot of people would like it for a joke, but then a lot of people might just not know about it. I'll go with 1,000.
Low ball or high ball? That's the question.
That is the question.
I don't know. I think some pages like that have a surprising number of likes.
Yeah.
I'm going to say like 2,000.
You're pretty close. It's 3,083. Brilliant.
Smashed it.
I don't know who won that quiz.
I think Emma.
Okay.
I'm going to say that.
Well done, Emma.
I'll accept that.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, me
thanks for the
too.
quiz.
But now for a discussion on the attractiveness and the evolution of facial hair. Okay, so let's start this conversation on the changing and different attractiveness of facial hair. So facial hair is an example of a sexual dimorphism. That's the official sort of scientific word. And a sexual dimorphism is basically any trait, behavioural, physical, which is seen in one of the sex of a species but not the other. So facial hair, I mean, there are, as we'll discuss later, this is a slight generalisation, but on the whole, we associate facial hair with men. Sexual dimorphisms evolve almost always in two ways. One is interspecific competition. So this is males trying to impress females. And this is a good example would be like the male peacock feathers. Very bright, very flashy.
Beards could be peacock feathers.
Exactly. Or the other way that they could evolve is intraspecific competition. So this is the idea that males fight off other males, intimidate other males with their
beard.
bushy beards. So this is sort of similar to the stag with its huge antlers,
Okay.
which it uses to fight off other males for access to females. So I'll start off with just a quick discussion on the evidence that it might be interspecifically evolved. So just a reminder, this is the peacock feathers that beards
They
have
look
evolved
fancy.
because women like them.
Yeah.
Journal of Evolutionary Biology investigated this question not that long ago in an image manipulation experiment. So they used the same man, but on Photoshop, I assume.
Photoshopped off his beard.
Photoshopped at different lengths of his beard. And on the whole, women did prefer a beardy man than a non-beardy man. So there's some suggestion that this might be the case. There was actually some quite cool nuances in the experiment. So they questioned 8,000 women.
Wow.
And they got them to rate the men based on whether they wanted just a short fling or a long-term relationship. And women preferred men with stubble for a short fling, but men with long beards seemed more indicative of a good partner for a long-term relationship.
Okay.
That's strange. I was going to say the other way around.
Yeah.
I thought clean shaven would be better for a long-term relationship. I thought that would be
No, but apparently long bushy beards, at least the authors seem to suggest, is a sign that a man is able to care and look after something.
Look after his little beard.
I mean, perhaps it's almost equivalent to the idea of looking after a baby beard. Do you know
He's
what I
got
mean?
to keep it clean.
Beards and
Exactly.
babies are the same. Beards cry in the middle of the night.
This is at least what the authors suggested. And perhaps the beard is an indicator of health. And this is a so-called honest signal. So it's a good, it's something that females will look for in a male because it's a signal of health. So
That you can't fake.
exactly. So
But
someone like
you could put on a fake beard.
Look at the ladies.
Later, perhaps, when they realise that it's just like tied around the back of the head.
So yeah, basically, people who don't have enough testosterone in their body, which is typically associated with male health, can't grow a very good beard.
Yeah.
Like me. However, this idea of interspecific competition is still a little bit debatable because there is such a diversity in women in their feelings towards beards. Some people absolutely hate them, and you would think that if this was a real good honest signal of male health, that it would be something that on the whole
People weren't divided about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That study did come out saying that people had found like feces particles in beards. So
Mr.
possibly
Twit.
Mr. Twit, yeah, possibly fair enough.
Let's just go on to look at the other theory of how beards might
The
evolve.
other theory.
Intraspecific competition. So just a reminder, this is the idea that a big bushy beard in a male is scary for other males, and they're more likely to back down. There's actually good proof of this, and it's believed to be one of the reasons of why the fashion of beards has fluctuated throughout history. So they go through big periods like the 70s where facial hair was seen as very attractive in men. Nowadays it's maybe come back a bit, particularly in like the hipster movement. Sort of, do you know what I mean? Down Division Street.
Down Division Street. Yeah, that barber's down Division Street.
So a study by the fantastically named Nigel Barber managed to find a link between British facial hair fashions all the way back to 1842 up to 1971, and it found that in times with a greater proportion of single men competing for fewer women, i.e. when male competition will be highest,
male competition for women.
Yes. Beards and moustaches became more fashionable.
Oh, wow.
Which is a really cool fact. I really like it, and it's a great example of how evolutionary theory can influence our everyday
something
fashion.
as fickle as fashion.
Yeah.
That's weird. I wonder if it says Britain. Because obviously
it was
in
just
different
Britain.
cultures.
Yes.
No, I just mean the phenomenon.
Oh, I see.
Because in different cultures, I would say beards stay in fashion quite a lot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Due to their
different cultures
links with religions.
have. Oh yeah, that's true. Like some cultures can grow facial hair like a lot more easily than others. Like I think like Asian, like Chinese people have don't grow hair very much at all.
That's definitely true. I read that. So there is this, and I did actually want to look at it, but there wasn't really much out there of why it might be.
Found something for you to do there next year.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Pioneer of beards, Chris Butler.
I've got some fun facts about beards here.
Fun facts, love a fun fact.
One of them is that some beards may hold antibiotics, which I've already suggested. Which is quite.
And others have feces.
The longest living beard measures just under 2.5 meters.
The longest living, as on a living person.
Yes.
The beard's got a mind of its own.
It is like raising a baby. And this belongs to a man called Sarwan Singh. He lives in Canada.
Well done, Sarwan.
However, that was the Guinness World Record for living. However, there's also another Guinness World Record for longest ever. And this is when they look at.
This is someone that's not alive.
And just a reminder, we're looking at.
Oh, they're not alive now.
Yeah.
It's like it grew after they died.
So 2.5 is the current longest beard on a living man, but this is a pitiful attempt to compare to the longest beard ever. The beard of Hans Langseth, Norway, lived in the mid 1900s. His beard measured 5.5 meters long.
Wow,
at the time of his burial.
It would drag behind you. I mean, a 2 meter beard would drag behind you.
Crazy,
That's
right?
mad.
Nothing
Well
more to
done.
say.
What was his name? Hans?
His name was Hans.
Yeah, well done, Hans.
Round of applause.
Very cool.
I quite like this. An Australian group of researchers looked at basically whether bearded men were more sexist, and they found that they were.
They are more sexist.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
They concluded that men holding more patriarchal views may be inclined to reinforce their masculinity and dominance by growing facial hair.
Yeah, again, I guess that's probably
like testosterone related, isn't it?
But also maybe a bit of cause and causation. Being able to grow a beard doesn't mean that you're sexist.
No, but maybe more.
It might just be towards the links of manliness and beards.
Yeah. The way they decided that bearded men were more sexist was they gave each participant what could possibly be seen as a derogatory comment, and they asked them to say whether they agreed that it was derogatory or whether they thought that it was harmless. And basically, more bearded men thought that the derogatory statement was harmless compared to clean-shaven men.
That's very interesting. Yeah. A good way of testing that, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure what...
An interesting way of testing that.
It's an interesting finding. Not really sure what use it has, but...
Yeah, I wonder if they... Because, do they have a control of whether it was derogatory or not. Like,
Yeah.
if they asked women, would they all say,
Yes.
yeah, it was, or it wasn't? Like,
Again,
Yeah.
women would be divided, I guess.
And maybe it is the case that actually bearded men were just more accurate.
maybe, yeah.
Very
Who knows?
true.
Who knows? But I'm going to assume that wasn't the case because the author specifically chose statements which were considered derogatory.
Oh, like a bit, inflammatory. Mm.
Yeah. I'm just going to briefly talk about, because I said I would at the start, facial hair does occur in women, and it's particularly very common in menopausal women, which is called a hirsutism. I think that's how it's pronounced. So this is a specific, not disease,
Condition.
where women grow hair in places that men typically do. And basically the reasons for this is to do with hormone levels. Postmenopausal ovary remains hormonally active, secreting significant amounts of androgens, which is the sort of male hormone, but relatively fewer levels of estrogen. Which
So
is
estrogen tends to level out, go
Yes.
down, whereas testosterone seems to go up.
exactly, which leads to perhaps more facial hair in older women.
Yeah.
Just before I wrap this up, beards are not just sexy in humans. Exaggerated hair growth is common across the animal kingdom. Obvious example?
I can't think of something.
No? A lion. So a male lion has
Well,
exaggerated.
now we like silly.
It's only easy once you know the answer. But yeah, lion
Yeah,
mane,
well, they
exactly,
have.
is
Cool.
the same idea.
Females, lions have started growing manes, haven't they?
Yes. That's slightly more complicated, isn't it?
That is very complicated.
That's because there's a benefit to being a male lion for the individual survival, and so females pretend to be males by growing
Yeah.
manes, so that they don't get bullied
Poached
as
and
more and
things
poached.
like that.
Yes, yeah, very cool.
Interesting.
Anything that you two would like to add?
I actually have a
little
bearded
fact.
tidbit, because I came across this study in my undergrad. This guy, it's about like beards and testosterone, and he was working in the Arctic on some like completely unrelated mission, and his girlfriend would like come and visit him sporadically, and he charted his beard growth when she was just about to come and visit, so basically when he was expecting sex, and he found that it grew more when he was expecting his girlfriend to come and visit.
So like the hair growth was faster.
Yeah.
That's very
crazy.
Because I assume it's like a spike in testosterone when
Yeah.
and it got published in Nature, so
Really?
pretty,
They did as a study.
Nature have published some weird things. They
have.
They published a story on just
A single duck.
a single duck which
Had a big penis.
It got in because it had a very, very big penis.
That was literally it.
Got into Nature. Supposedly the most well sought after journal ever.
Yeah, I find it really funny because obviously he was there for a completely unrelated, like that was
Yeah.
his actual scientific research about like the Arctic or something. People's like,
He was
oh, just
just
a little
like-
side project, chart my beard growth.
It was just like a joke with the lads, like, let's just see how much my beard grows when my girlfriend comes, and now it's in Nature. Well,
Righto.
fair dues.
Shall we press on? 'Cause we're running out of
Yes.
time, actually. Moving on.
Moving on. Okay, so our last discussion of the episode is on, well, what this whole episode is themed around, Movemeber, so the Movemeber charity. It is a global charity, so not just the UK, but so it started in 2003, now a global campaign, and kind of it was almost like famous in a way, wasn't it? Like it was a big trend.
Yeah.
Encourages men to grow mustaches or beards in the month of November, therefore called Movemeber, for sponsorship. So encourages guys to get people to sponsor them to grow a beard, however successful that beard may or may not be. I've seen some pitiful Movemeber beards before. But it does go further than this, and they also have a Move for Movemeber project, which is maybe for the men that aren't as follically
Active.
encouraging
Physically
people to get moving over a certain distance, time, place for charity, whether this is running, cycling, swimming, whatever. But yeah, so that's kind of how they get involved with the public and get money that way. They have several ways that they are campaigning to improve men's health. So it's not, I previously just thought it was a cancer charity, but it's not. So that it is, they campaign to improve prostate cancer, testicular cancer, but also men's suicide risk and mental health. But focusing in on prostate cancer. So this is obviously getting a bit more somber and serious, but nevertheless a very important issue. In the UK, every 45 minutes, one man dies from prostate cancer. It is the second most common cancer in men, and rates are on the rise. By 2030, there will be 1.7 million men living with prostate cancer.
Wow.
Yeah. I think a fair enough question. You might be thinking, what on earth is a prostate? I mean, I didn't really know until I did the research for this. So the prostate is a walnut-sized gland. There you go, some visual stimuli for you there. Located between the bladder and the penis, just in front of the rectum. And the prostate secretes fluid that nourishes and protects the sperm.
Okay.
So signs and symptoms of prostate cancer are needing to urinate more frequently, often during the night, or needing to like rush to the toilet, because obviously it's located near the bladder.
Yeah.
So if you have a tumour in that area, then it's going to push on your bladder. But also difficulty in starting to pee, so like a hesitancy, or straining or taking a long time while urinating, a weak flow, or feeling like your bladder has not emptied fully, are all signs, and you would be encouraged, if you had any of those symptoms, to go to the doctor.
Very interesting.
But also, something I found interesting, and it's also quite controversial in this whole topic, is so screening for prostate cancer. So obviously you can have a like an exam with the doctor, but there's also something called PSA screening, and it's screening men to check the prostate specific antigen, so PSA levels. Is a controversial subject in the international medical community. So if you have a cancer, then your body's likely to fight it back, and you get antigens in your bloodstream. But PSA tests are potentially unreliable and can suggest cancer when no cancer exists, so a false positive result, which means many men often have to have invasive and sometimes painful biopsies for no reason. And also, up to 15% of men with prostate cancer can have normal PSA levels. So you get false positives and false negatives.
I see. Okay.
So many cases could be missed. Apparently, the PSA test can also find aggressive prostate cancer that needs treatment, but also slower growing cancer that may never cause symptoms or shorten life whatsoever. So kind of benign and malignant, is that the word?
Yeah.
Tumours. So some men therefore can face difficult decisions about treatment. So if it's there and it's not doing anything, what do you do about that? Do you go through the possibly painful and life-changing treatment, or do you just kind of
leave it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one.
Yeah,
causes a lot of strain in someone's life, I imagine. Although screening has been shown to reduce a man's chance of dying from prostate cancer, it could mean that many men receive treatment unnecessarily, which is a waste of resources and strain for people's lives. So more research is needed to be done to determine whether a screening program could provide men with more benefit than harm. So quite controversial, because you would think, should we screen people for cancer? And you'd be like, 100% yes. But it's not as easy as that. And then moving on to testicular cancer. So the other type of cancer that Movemeber UK and other around the world deal with. In most cases, the outcome for men with testicular cancer is positive, but 1 out of 20 men won't make it. And it's a big killer in men under 35. So 47% of men diagnosed with testicular cancer in the UK each year are aged under 35. So it's kind of similar to prostate cancer. If you think you have any signs or lumps or anything like that, you should go to a doctor. And Movemeber actually provide advice on how to check the testicles for lumps. You can find on their website, which is uk.movember.com/men's health/testicular cancer. They have several global projects, including a global action plan, which are research initiatives that brings research together to tackle tough challenges in prostate cancer and testicular cancer. That was launched in 2011 and is 7 large-scale global initiatives, 350 researchers, 90 institutions and in 21 countries. And then another global project they have is called something True NTH. So I don't know whether that's like True North. That's how I would potentially read that. It's a revolutionary global care program that helps the quality of life of men living with prostate and testicular cancer. So there's also that. So there's tackling it, but also helping people's lives that have these cancers. And then maybe just quickly moving on to another big part of Movember is about men's mental health and suicide prevention. So 1 in 8 men in the UK have experienced a mental health problem, and staggeringly 3 out of 4 suicides are in men. Much higher in men than it is in women. Globally, every minute a man dies from suicide. So the Movemeber website says they're working towards a world where men and boys take action to be mentally healthy and well and are supported by their friends, family and community during tough times. So this is potentially maybe an issue of men not feeling like they can express feelings and find people for help and not knowing if you're depressed or feeling suicidal, where to go.
I know there is this sort of idea that a man shouldn't express any emotion.
Which is very harmful. Suicide is much higher in men than women. There's
Although, go on. Just, I think also that's completed suicide is higher in men, and I think that's related to men tend to choose a lot more kind of violent methods. Whereas if women attempt suicide, it tends to be something like pills, which is kind of reversible. So whereas a man is a lot more likely. I don't know. That's just something that I heard in my undergrad, that it's like a lot more.
It's something
about methods than.
So does that mean that in terms of attempted suicide, the numbers are more similar?
Perhaps,
I think so. Yeah.
So if you choose to kill yourself with like a gun or something like that, it's less likely to fail than if it's with medication where you don't quite know.
Like, so if you take pills, you can kind of think, oh God, what have I done? And go to a hospital, and then it can have a good outcome. Whereas if you're kind of jumping in front of a train, then you can't really.
But there's also some research done on important risk factors, which are age and socioeconomic status. So middle-aged men today are apparently kind of in the middle of 2 very different generations, which is like a pre-war silent type, where they just don't talk about it, and a post-war me generation. I'm not quite sure what this means. So it's stuck between a strong, silent type male stereotype of their father's generation and a progressive and more open generation of their sons, which is quite difficult to know where to place yourself and like whether you should talk to someone or whether you shouldn't. I should say, to speak to someone immediately, you can contact Samaritans on 116 123, and then obviously if life is in danger, you would call 999 or go directly to emergency services. But yes, this study revealed that suicide rate was 10 times higher in men who have lower socioeconomic status than affluent males, which is perhaps understandable in that life is a lot harder if you aren't affluent. Well-known link between unemployment and suicide, and things like that. And then, but the authors of this kind of study do highlight we don't know a lot about the actual psychological roots that lead to depression in men and suicide and things like that. So we don't know how or why personal problems, financial difficulties lead to suicide, perhaps more often in men than women, or whether it's because men aren't seeking help when women perhaps would, or even, like you said, with this bias in attempts and, well, I'm not going to say successes, but it actually resulting in a death. But yeah, so that's what Movemeber is all about, campaigning for, getting people help, and they have a lot of information on their website if you feel you want to talk or you want to ask someone if they're okay and how to approach them and things like that. So
very worthwhile charity.
Yeah, it's very worthwhile.
I think,
so grow a beard, guys.
Important to say, like, suicide can be prevented, like, right up until you're about to do it, or even after you've already tried.
Yes.
So don't be disheartened. You can be happy again.
Yes.
Yeah, there's always a way out and a better
people
way.
to talk to.
Yes. So, yeah, definitely Samaritans is someone to contact if you feel personally like you're struggling, or going on to the Movemeber website to find out more about it, and also testicular cancer and prostate cancer as well. Very worthwhile
Excellent.
charity.
I think that concludes our show.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.